funds, we have issues with the young people, issues with families, policies, state and national. So wherever you want to start is fine with us.
Yeah, so, is this on? Okay. So, I'm Frances Valdez, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what is called a dreamer, and also a little bit about what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. To start the conversation, I just want to tell you really quickly about my first dreamer client. His name is Mario Perez. And I met Mario in 2010 when he was detained. He was detained in Stephen F. Austin, where he went to school. And he was detained because he was driving on campus without a license. And he rolled through a stop sign, was arrested by the college police, and then taken to the local law enforcement agency. And then there, his fingerprints were taken, and then he was sent to ICE here in Houston. So this Mario came to the United States when he was 5. He grew up in Missouri City. He went to elementary, middle, and high school here. He felt as American as any other person who grows up in the United States. And he was very involved in his campus. One of the great facts I love about Mario is that he is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, one of the oldest and largest black fraternities in the country. And so Mario had this wonderful relationship with people from all races, all backgrounds. And so when he was detained, the people who actually contacted me were his fraternity brothers. And they were the ones who were really behind trying to stop Mario's detention, trying to get him out from detention and stop his deportation. So I just like to tell people about him because this was at a time when there was nothing that I could do for Mario, nothing I could do in the court. He wasn't eligible for any relief because a lot of immigration law is centered around family relationships. So maybe you have a parent, spouse, or a child who was born in the United States or has some type of status. A lot of dreamers don't have those relationships. Their parents are undocumented because they brought them here undocumented as well. They're too young to get married because they do what everyone tells them to do. They don't get married, they go to college. And so they're in college and they don't have kids yet either. So these are a lot of people that are just trying to do the right thing. Mario is a math and statistics major, and he really wanted to be an engineer. So at the time, I didn't really know what to do with this type of case because as lawyers, we usually just use the law. And once the law fails, you kind of don't know what to do. And that's when I met a group called United We Dream. And United We Dream had this wonderful idea of they didn't care what the law said, and they were going to stop deportations anyway. And they were going to do that through community support and by basically informing everyone in the community about what was happening to dreamers. And what they do is, I call it a marketing campaign. They kind of laugh when I say this, but that's basically what it is. They were putting these stories out in the newspapers, television, any format that we could, and educating just regular people about dreamers and what was happening to them. And slowly but surely, they were actually stopping deportations one by one by basically shaming ICE into not deporting an individual. But at that time, I can tell you that I spent, once it came down to fighting to stop Mario's deportation, I literally spent 30 days, day and night, and weekends working, trying to get a story out and to the public. And it was really intense and really difficult. We were able to stop the deportation, but I was convinced that this was not the way that we were actually going to save a large number of people. It just wasn't sustainable. So I became more involved in United We Dream and learned a lot about what they do. We were hoping that we could get legislation through something called the DREAM Act. And the DREAM Act would actually allow dreamers to become residents and eventually citizens and be a part of the society. But in 2010, the DREAM Act failed. So what these dreamers did was they don't stop. And I think I'm talking about dreamers right now because I think that they're a model for what needs to happen now and all social justice movements. And I talk about it too as a social justice movement because I really feel that immigration is the social justice, human rights movement of our time, this day and age. And so what they did is they started telling Obama that he needed to give them something called deferred action. And they did it politely, and then they did it in public, and they did it in a number of ways and kept pushing and pushing. And Obama would say, I can't give you what's called deferred action. And deferred action is basically just a policy, basically, decision where the president can decide that he won't deport certain individuals. And he kept saying, I can't, and they organized and kept organizing, and there were conferences where Obama would be speaking, and then someone would say, Obama, give Dreamers deferred action, and interrupt the speech, and then he would say, I can't, and then they would start screaming, yes you can, and then undocumented and unafraid, and, and then they were getting out there and saying these things like, we're undocumented and unafraid, and they were coming out and telling people, I'm undocumented and I'm unafraid, and I'm going to tell everyone who I am, and I'm going to teach you about who I am. And the public, I mean, it's almost like one of these things where you meet a dreamer, you just can't help but feel sympathetic to their situation. So then ultimately they got a large group of law professors to write a letter to Obama and explain to him why and how he could legally give deferred action to dreamers. So that's why on June 15, 2012, the president announced deferred action for childhood arrivals. And it was a beautiful day because Mario now is not going to, we had stopped his deportation temporarily, but now he is under deferred action. And many other people that I had been working with and grew to love and just felt a lot of relief that now these individuals could apply for a work permit that would last for 2 years, and they wouldn't be subject to deportation during that time. So here we are in December 2013, and a lot of people have been granted deferred action, but it's not enough. And the Dreamers have continued to organize, and were a big reason why we were able to get the Senate to pass a bill in June, a comprehensive bill. So a lot of people are talking about comprehensive immigration reform, which is basically a big bill that would address a lot of issues. And there's not enough time even tonight to talk to you about all of the immigration issues that need to be fixed. But it would include a dream portion for the Dreamers, but also help what people are calling the 11 million, all of the 11 million undocumented people that live in this country. And that's what the Dreamers have decided. They felt like they were able to get some type of victory through DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and now they want to fight for their parents, and they want to fight for everyone that they love. And so through United We Dream, we're doing a lot of work, a lot of advocacy, and I'm talking about this once again for you to think individually about what you can do and how you can be a part of this. Because think about it, in Arizona this summer, a group of Dreamers were protesting at the detention center. And these are, I mean, they're still undocumented. They do have, a lot of them have deferred action, but they're not, they can be deported, and they're not completely safe. So they were at a detention facility protesting, and as they were protesting, a bus in the middle of the night starts to come out and starts full of people, full of women, on its way to Mexico to drop them off and deport them to Mexico. And so what this group did is they just decided to surround the bus, and they started praying, and they just wouldn't move, and they wouldn't let the bus go forward. And I really wanted to show you this, but you can find it online if you look up unitedwedream.org, and it's called Stop the Bus. You could probably find it on Facebook. And it's this beautiful image of about 20 people sitting there and kneeling there and praying and praying and praying, and finally this bus backs up. And the bus, they literally stopped this bus. They literally stopped this busload of people from being deported. And I think that, I always think about that image because it shows like what we can do as individuals, and it shows, and especially as a small group, and then think about it as a large group together. And so now the Senate has passed a bill, and the House is not doing anything. We're at a standstill. So the House cannot agree on how to move forward on immigration. The House leadership has said that they will not take up the Senate bill. The House leadership has said that they want to do it what we're calling piecemeal, where they have a bunch of little bills that will eventually come together eventually one day. We don't know when, we don't know how, but would eventually address the issues that we face in immigration law. But the problem is that all of the bills that they have talked about so far are purely enforcement. All they do is basically, there's something called the SAFE Act that basically criminalizes anyone who has any relationship with an undocumented person, and criminalizes undocumented people for being undocumented. So we call it the Unsafe Act. It's not the SAFE Act. And there's no type of legalization component to these bills at all. So there really is no answer right now. And the 11 million people are becoming more and more frustrated. And we are towards the end of the legislative session, and it's very doubtful whether we'll get something this year. And this year was supposed to be the year. This was the best year. Everyone was saying, all the experts were saying, if there's any time that we could pass an immigration reform, is in 2013. So it doesn't look really good, but at the same time, I'm very hopeful, because I go back to these images of Mario, I go back to the images of the stopping the bus, and knowing all of these amazing young people that are basically changing the laws, and they're undocumented because they're undocumented and unafraid. And I think about, what could people who are documented and become unafraid do? And so I just really want to leave you with a sense of urgency, because there really is urgency. There are about 1,000 people that get deported every day. And these are, parents, children, spouses, and it's not okay. What I'm personally would like to start saying is that Obama can stop these deportations, similarly to how he did with the deferred action. And I'm hoping that if we don't have a reform bill by the end of this year, that he will do something in next year, and that I hope that many of you will join us in pushing for that. So I'll leave you with that. I have some materials in the back. We have another forum similar to this, where we're going to talk about a little bit more broadly of trying to bridge different social justice issues, women, LGBT issues, and immigration issues together, to show how these are all social justice movements that need to work together. So that's going to be on Tuesday, and there's a flyer I have here and in the back. And then I have more information about neighborhood centers where I work as well. And if you need any information about us, it's there. We work with the city, and we are going, and the Leo Educational Fund, and on Saturday we'll be doing a citizenship workshop. If you'd like to come to the Southwest Multi-Service Center, we always need volunteers. And just to kind of give you how everything ties together, I mean, citizenship is very important, right? Because citizens get to elect our officials, and the idea is that if people were more involved and voted, and educated voters, that the people could get what they wanted. So the citizenship work is extremely important, and we hope that you will support that as well. So thank you.